Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Not Yet Adults podcast. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Collin Geffrey, joined yet again by this young upstart, this new face on the block. He's got a lot going for him, Eric Zayas.
Hey, I'm Eric. How's it going?
That's a t-shirt. Just, hey, like 14 Ys, and then I'm Eric and like tiny little font at the bottom. How's it going, man? We have a podcast now. This is cool.
Yeah, I'm nervous and excited, and I'm not sure which one I feel more of, but
I think we should be more excited. I mean, like the launch went pretty well, which is cool. Between YouTube, SoundCloud, and other podcast services, we're pretty close to 100 listens, which is awesome. So thank you all so much. If you haven't listened to it yet, I don't know why you'd be starting on episode 2, but there's an episode 1, so go back and listen to that. And be sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you get your content. We're pretty much everywhere, and if there's somewhere that we're not, let us know so we can get on there.
yes, and please bug your friends about this. Share this with them. Most likely, if you liked it, they'll like it because I'm assuming you're like-minded individuals since you're friends. And yeah, we'd really appreciate kind of you spreading the podcast out if you like to. And if you don't like to, you don't have to. It's a free country.
But if you don't want to, then you probably shouldn't be listening because you're dead to us, and it's over. So you had your chance. That's it. So Eric, what's going on in our lives? Last week we talked about coming home. That was kind of our big topic that more or less drove us for most of the episode. What do you want to talk about this week?
Yeah, this week I was thinking about talking about the newfound challenges in work-life balancing. I recently requested more hours at my work at Lowe's, and I've found that I basically immediately regret that. I do like, getting more money and stuff, and since I have more free time, since I'm not going to school, I, searching for a job. I have no real excuse not to work more hours, but it's just kind of weighing on me, and also, it's taking less time from summer, which I've always associated with like vacation throughout my life, and now summer is just another season, and I'm trying to figure out how to sneak in more of a vacation while taking more hours at work.
So just for a little perspective, like how many hours were you working compared to how many you're working right now?
Oh yeah, I'm still technically part-time. I was working around a little bit over 20 hours, and I looked at my most recent schedules, and it's like just under what would be considered full-time. So it's like 35 plus for like the next 2 weeks, and it's like, oh god.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, which will be nice when I get my paycheck, but it's definitely a new challenge for me.
Yeah, for sure.
How's the job search going with you?
It's interesting because I feel like you and I are, I don't necessarily want to say opposite sides of the same coin, but like we're both trying to be productive in our career in very different ways. I feel because like you're working a lot and bringing in money and kind of getting into that field, and I am not technically working right now. I'm basically have an agreement with my family that I'm spending this summer job searching. And instead of getting the first job I can find, because it's like I can find something, I'd rather not, but I could find some sort of work. It's spending time really applying myself and building a portfolio for jobs that I would want to make a career out of, basically. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of why I've been doing YouTube so much and why I'm working on other projects and stuff, is basically to build a portfolio that companies hopefully will take notice of, that I'd really like to work at. And so I haven't been working in the traditional sense, but I've set hours for myself, and I have days of the week that I am working on my portfolio and stuff like that. My schedule, in quotes, is 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, working just on building my portfolio and applying to companies that I'd like to work at for a long period of time. So that's kind of where I'm at. And obviously I can do that from the security of my home in my bedroom, so it's not all that challenging in that respect. But it is, it's... people say job searching on its own can be a full-time job, and that's very true. So
yeah, you're very correct about how we have very different approaches to job searching, because my job searching philosophy, if you want to call that, is basically I haven't really started applying to many places because I've been focusing on my own work and spending time with friends. especially since recently I had a cousin come over from Virginia and we spent a week together. So that was kind of like where my head was at. My focus was just like enjoying the time with family and friends and doing stuff. And now that he's gone back to Virginia, now I have to pull all my attention back towards job searching. And my approach is basically I'm going to apply pretty much anywhere locally that would use my degree, not really with much regard towards the job itself, more just to get a new job.
Just find something, like a foot in the door to the industry that you want to work in.
Exactly. And so I'm not trying to be too picky. I'd like to like where I work, obviously, but I'm just really trying to get into the workforce sort of ASAP.
No, that's fair. I think that's a fair, strategy. To you, is it, what kind of job would you have to find, and this may be putting you on the spot, so if you're not comfortable answering, that's totally okay, but what kind of job would it need to be for you to want to leave Lowe's? Because right now you already are somewhere with good hours and you have a good working relationship with the people there.
Well, I'm really just interested in a place that I can apply my communications degree to that would give me experience in the field of communication. Because in my current job, it's just like a customer service job, which is good experience in that field, but I'm not really interested in customer service anymore because that was just a job to help like have money through school and stuff.
So you just want an industry job in comms or video or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, preferably something to do with marketing in the video production realm, like making little video packages for companies or doing social media work for businesses, trying to get my foot in the door. Hopefully that will lead to commercial work, like making or working on commercials. I think that would be a good like entryway in, or a good route to take in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you mentioned you haven't started applying yet. Once you do start applying, what's kind of your angle? Like how do you, when you're looking for a job, try to sell yourself? Because that's something that I struggle with, is like I'll be writing a cover letter, a resume or whatever, and I'm like, so often I feel like just saying like, please just call me and I can tell you about it. Like it doesn't read on a page. This is so boring. Like, I've written probably 10, 15 cover letters this summer, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing I've ever read in my life. It's just like, it looks so flat on a page. So how do you try to, sell yourself on paper to get an interview, or how do you plan on doing that?
Oh God, it seems like such an unnatural thing to talk about yourself like in a promotional way.
Right.
But that's like kind of like, that's what interviewing is and stuff. And you're raised your whole life to like kind of be modest to an extent.
Sure.
And not like be like overly cocky. And then when you are finishing college and you join the workforce, they tell you basically the opposite. Like, you want to have confidence and you want to basically explain how you're better than other people. And I feel that like I have troubles with that on paper too. But like for some reason when I'm in the room in an interview, I have this sort of like confidence. I think it's just easier for me to be like face to face.
I'm totally the same way. It's exactly the same. Like if I'm having a conversation with someone, it's not weird because then it's just the natural flow of a conversation, and I feel like I can adapt to that. But when it's very much like a one-way street and it's completely blind on your end of how much they are and aren't seeing of what you're sending in, and you're making cover letters and resumes just sending it out into the ether and hoping something maybe comes from it, that's so hard for me because I'm like, there's no room to explain. There is no room for interpretation. It is just however they take it that day that they see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when it comes to writing cover letters or developing a resume, something that helps me a little bit, as much as it can, because I don't have a whole lot of it. I'm not like definitely not an expert in any of those fields. I think it helps if you think about yourself as another person. Like if you're writing the resume, if you're writing the resume or the cover letter as if the person you're writing about is someone else, not you, then it's easier, at least for me, to sort of, this is kind of crude, but to sort of pimp myself out, because it's not necessarily, because I'm looking at it more from someone that's like,
it's like someone who knows you in a professional setting. This is what you would need to know about Eric Zayas, kind of.
Absolutely.
So it would be like Eric Zayas, videographer, wanted for murder in 14 counties.
Yeah, except I keep out that last part because I mean,
You never know. There's some weird jobs out there that could be a skill set that an employer is looking for. But no, I think it's a really good point you made of kind of, I don't know if third person is the right word, but just kind of as a bystander or as an outsider looking in. I think that's a really good piece of advice. Because like one very technical issue I have when I'm writing a resume or a cover letter is not so much cover letters, I guess, but is what perspective I'm writing in. Is I feel like I go back and forth between he and I and Colin and like how I refer to the stuff I've done, and I'm like, this is just very weird and tonally inconsistent, and I don't know what the AP style guide on this thing is, but it's just very odd. And so yeah, I don't know. The whole process is very bizarre to me because to get through that first step, it's entirely arbitrary. Companies have systems that scan through your application, and if certain words pop up too much or too little, then you're immediately out of the running. And it's stuff like that, and the whole thing's very discouraging because often I had a professor at PLU that said something that really stuck with me, and that was that the best person for the job, their resume always goes in the discard pile every single time, because it's not necessarily who can do the job best, it's who said it in a way that convinced the person who was looking through the resumes that they were the right person.
yeah, there's only so much your on paper experience can speak for you,
Right.
whereas you can speak for yourself so much more. Than like this person worked at X company for X amount of hours and did X, Y, and Z.
And you can do it yourself in a way that doesn't seem conceited, or at least not as conceited as it does on paper. Because like when you and I are having a conversation, I don't feel like it sounds like we're bragging when we're talking about things we've done. But on paper, it's like, well, I did this, this, and this, and I got my degree in that, and I worked here for 4 years. And it's like, it just comes across as very arrogant to me.
But I feel that someone who reads resumes on a daily basis, because that's their job to vet people, kind of like get used to that sort of writing and don't necessarily interpret it as bragging so much as just promoting themselves, and this is just the way with which they did it. But I don't know, I've never had that kind of job or seen from that kind of perspective. I'm curious, real quick, you mentioned how you're more sort of picky with job hunting. You're job hunting right now, but you're looking for specific jobs. I was curious what your process is with the kind of jobs you're looking for and what kind of jobs you are looking for.
So for me, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm in a position that not many people are in. I'm very lucky in the sense that I graduated from college about 2 years before most people do. And so I have a little bit of time to kind of figure out what I'm doing, and I'm not in quite a rush to get into the workforce as a lot of people are. I want to, but I'm kind of not forcing it. And so basically where I'm at is I've known for quite some time what companies I would really want to work for, not just for a year or two, but as like a career. The issue with those companies is one, the ones I'm looking at are far away. So anytime you have to relocate, it automatically adds more stress to things. And two, they're very competitive, and they're companies that occasionally hire people right out of college, but not often. And so for me, the issue is how do I convince them that I'm not only qualified, but more qualified when people I'm looking at are older and or more experienced. And so for me, what I've agreed with my parents, and they've been very supportive of this, is, I feel like I am a good enough interviewer and I have a strong enough resume that I could get a job right now at a lot of places locally. I feel like I could go find something and start working if that was my goal. But as we talked about in the last episode, I also know that I could do that, and in the blink of an eye, 5 years would go by, and I'm no closer to what I actually want to do with my life. And so what I'm kind of in the position to do, at least for the moment, is be a little bit more picky and only apply to just a handful of places that I really, really would like to commit myself to, and kind of see if anything comes from that. And, that's not going to last forever. If eventually it gets to the point where, hey, this just isn't working out, maybe there aren't openings, maybe I'm not old enough, whatever it may be, then obviously, I will have to go find other work. But for now, it's just basically keeping an eye on those very select companies I really want to work for. And the second an opening pops up, basically dropping everything and saying, okay, how do I make the best possible application for this that I possibly can?
Yeah, it's With me, because I'm not entirely sure with what I want to do, I have like lofty like goals and aspirations, but as far as like which career I want to commit myself to, I am still kind of undecided on that. As far as like first jobs to get, I don't really have any specific first jobs that I feel like I need to get to build a specific resume towards a targeted goal, because I don't have a targeted goal. So I think that's also why I'm maybe a little less picky as to the job and more interested, as long as it has like a video production element to the communications job, because I plan on working in video production. Beyond that, I'm not sure which specific form of video production I want to aim towards.
Well, and in yours, and granted, I'm not an expert, but in your situation, I don't know how much it matters if you know exactly what you're trying to go, because production is a very, very large industry, but at the same time, there is so much overlap. I mean, like everybody knows everybody. So to just get a production job and just have experience working on a professional setting or a professional production of any sort, I think that is going to look far better than, like you said, customer service or retail or whatever. It's just getting a foot in the door, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah, I think also an important thing is networking and building not only a resume of experience, but a resume of people you know. Because I've heard so many times that employers for certain companies want to hire people that they like, or especially when it comes to like creative endeavors.
Sure.
Which is sort of something I'm sort of interested in, sort of like the end goal as far as video production, working like less in a commercial sense and more of a creative sense. Those kind of studios want to hire people that they have it like a relationship with and rapport with, so that when I end up finding a position at a place that I'm really interested in, hopefully I know someone that works there, so I could say, hey, I'm Eric, I did this thing with you before, I did this thing with this person before. So
instead of it just being a shot in the dark and you're just a name in a pile of 100 if not 1,000 names that you're just trying desperately for anyone to look at you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you said something there that really struck home with me, and that's kind of from the employer's perspective. They're kind of looking for someone they have a rapport with, and it always makes me think about, especially in creative stuff or production or whatever, you're going to have to train anyone. Even the perfect candidate is going to have to learn some stuff, because every production is so different. That said, the stuff that you can't really alter or change that much is the personality someone has and the feel you have around them. And if those things are there, I feel like almost everything else can be taught to most people, or at least to the right kind of people. It's like, so you don't know, what the export settings on their videos are. You don't know what cameras they're shooting on, whatever. That stuff can be learned. But if you have the general knowledge and you have the right attitude and you have that spark to you, I think that makes people a lot more, willing to say, okay, let's give them an interview or let's give them a chance, than someone who's very technically qualified, but maybe isn't that pleasant to be around.
Yeah, I kind of wish resumes or application processes included some sort of like personality test to see like not only like if they have the experience for the job and the know-how, but also if they have the kind of mindset that would jive with that kind of group that they're applying towards, or that kind of company.
I'm torn on that, because like on the one hand, I feel like that could be really cool because it could help you stand out, but on the other hand, it reduces something like personality again to numbers and data, and that's where I feel like I excel the least, not because I don't value numbers and data, but because it's so hard to stand out there.
Yeah.
And with people, I mean, how do you quantify people in a way that's fair or representative of who they are? I just don't know how you do that.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, taking someone's like being and saying, putting it to numbers is a sort of subjective way to, or putting an objective thing on something that's naturally subjective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I understand why employers have to do it, just because of the sheer bandwidth of requests they get. When a position goes up, they get hundreds, if not thousands, of applications for that job.
True.
So I understand you have to sort through the noise somehow, but when you're on the other side, it's just so frustrating.
Which is part of why I really want to build relationships with people, because I feel like if they have a face to my name, rather than just seeing my name in black and white on a paper, I'll stand out immediately because they'll be like, oh, I already know that person. I already have experience with that person.
Yeah, you're a known quantity at that point. They're not just guessing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Eric, kind of switching gears here for a second. We've talked about kind of job searching and how we feel about the whole process. How has your life this summer been in terms of balancing work with non-work? You mentioned your cousin was in town, you're spending time with your family, you're in a relationship. What's it been like kind of finding a healthy balance between those things?
I've lucked out in certain realms because the woman I'm currently dating just happens to have a schedule that works with mine. And so I'm able to spend a lot of time with her, more than I expected, and it's been really nice. And in regards to my cousin Edgar visiting from Virginia, that's something we've planned months in advance. So I've made sure to get time off work for that. However, I did kind of make an mistake in regards to that, because I had a summer job, and when that ended, I told my manager at Lowe's, hey, I just finished this summer job, and now my schedule has opened up completely, so you can schedule me more hours, and she did.
Right.
But then I forgot to mention that my cousin Edgar was visiting from Virginia, and so the week he was over here, she scheduled me like the whole week, full days. And there was a genuine moment where I was considering quitting this job that I've had for 5+ years, just because I knew I wouldn't be able to get a lot of that time off.
I feel like if your boss likes you and you've worked there that long, you could probably just explain to them, hey, I'm really sorry, I made a mistake. I have family staying in. Is there any way I can swap out the hours this week? And from next week on, I can do the full time or whatever, or the almost full time.
Yeah, and that's pretty much exactly what I did. I talked to my manager and said, hey, I know I just said I can work more hours, but my cousin's coming over. I barely see him. Can you please give me some of these days off, if not all of them? And we came to an agreement where I'd work like 2 of the days of that full week rather than the whole week, and only like half days, so we came to an agreement there, which was like super lucky. And I'm still kicking myself for not thinking about that week.
I mean, you live and you learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's tough. I mean, between the YouTube stuff, which I'm basically using my YouTube videos as my portfolio to companies that I'm applying to, but between my YouTube stuff and just actually building and sending off job applications, I'm probably somewhere between, this is going to be a wide window, but like 45 to 60 hours a week, somewhere in there. I couldn't really tell you specifically. It goes up and down. But the issue I'm running into is like, how do I know how much is too much? You know what I mean? When you have a job and it's like, these are my hours, then okay, this is exactly how much I'm working. This is, how much money I'm bringing in and all that. And the position I'm in is essentially I'm putting in all this time per week, and it's very nebulous of like, well, do I really have anything to show for this week? I don't know. I made more videos and I maybe sent off an application or two, but until I get an interview or a job out of it, it could all be for nothing,
Yeah, I think we're gonna like stumble in regards to scheduling, and especially because it's summer and I'm still trying to enjoy the summer and not just trying to like immediately end my summer vacation with a job and still trying to spend some time with friends. There's just like new scheduling conflicts that I didn't anticipate that are coming up, and that's something we're both going to have to learn, like how we can work our new work schedules into our lives that are a lot less structured because they're still new and we don't have like an exact schedule for them yet.
Do you watch Philip DeFranco on YouTube at all?
Not as much as I used to, but I know who you're talking about.
So he had this quote, I don't remember what the video was, but basically asking about work-life balance, and he said that basically in life you have like these 3 pillars. You have your work, your family, and your friends. And at any given point, you can really do a great job on one of those pillars. And when you do, the other 2 kind of start to falter a little bit. And you can do a good job on 2 of those pillars. And once you do, the 3rd one basically just completely crumbles. And that's kind of my fear, I guess, is I'm the kind of person who when it's a job or a project that I really care about, I am totally a workaholic. I'll spend all day, every day working on something and get kind of obsessed about it. And as a result, stuff can kind of, those other two pillars, I guess, if we want to use that metaphor, the family and friends thing can kind of fall to the sidelines. And so for you, how do you kind of keep those balanced? Is there a certain point where you're like, okay, I just need to go hang out with my family, or I need to not be around my family anymore. I really need to focus on work. Like, how do you personally?
Yeah, I haven't had any real conflicts. Well, mainly because like as the friend part of it has kind of fallen to the wayside, and that's something I'm trying to like repair, trying to spend more time with friends. But as far as like my family life, it's been pretty consistent because I live with them. So I definitely spend time with my family just because I see them so often. And work has always only been my part-time job at Lowe's. And there was a little bit of work for the Grand Cinema Film Camp that I did as a summer job, but that's ended. And as far as like the work part of things, now I just have to like start applying towards jobs, and once I find the right job that justifies me leaving Lowe's, it's going to be basically switching from one job to the other. I'm not going to try doing two jobs.
You mentioned that you feel like your relationship with your family, like there's kind of enough being put in there because you still live together. As you and I hopefully move out at some point in the near future, do you think that's going to be harder to maintain that relationship with our folks?
I believe so, and I think that's kind of a natural progression of life, as sad as it sounds.
Yeah.
I definitely still plan on keeping in touch with my folks as much as I can. If I find a job where I have to move like across the country or to another country, I fully understand that communication with my folks and also with my current friends that live here is going to lessen.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I'm in the same boat. I feel like when I was at college, I was talking to my mom in particular maybe once a week, my brother maybe once every other week, and then my sister and dad I basically didn't talk to at all because they don't like talking on the phone, so we just catch up when we're together. And my sister and dad in particular, I feel like those relationships didn't really suffer because we knew, oh, I'd be back at Christmas, or oh, I'd be back at summer or whatever, and we'd catch up then. But once I move out and presumably move away, I don't know what that looks like, because then there is no ticking clock. Then there is no, oh, I'll see you this summer. I'll see you, at the end of the month or whatever. Then just who knows? It's really hard to say, other than maybe holidays or something. I don't know what that looks like, but maybe that is just part of getting older. You can't stay in the nest forever. No one can. Eventually, you have to go off and live your own life. So
Very true.
Well, Eric, we've been talking for just north of 30 minutes. You got any pressing business? Anything you wanted to bring up before we call it quits?
No, I guess I just want to say, if any companies out there are listening, my name is Eric Zayas. Please hire me.
I am putting a $20,000 bounty on Eric's career, meaning if you hire him for any amount, I will personally give you $20,000. And this is legally binding. This is all real. No, it's not. I'm kidding. Please
Colin,
don't.
why would you do this to me?
And this is how the podcast gets
I thought
sued.
we were friends.
No, that's good. You get hired, and then the employer gets money. Everybody wins.
Oh, I see. I thought you were saying don't hire me.
No. I would never do that. I was saying whoever will hire Eric Zayas, I'll give $20,000. But that was a lie. If you listen this far, just mark that down, a little asterisk at the bottom of the page. This is a lie. It's not true. I can't give you that money. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said it. And yeah, that's where we're at. So, all right. Well, good podcast, Eric. I think we're breaking up, or we're in a tunnel, or under a train, or something's exploding or something.
I think this is the perfect time to end this on the highest note possible.
Highest note possible.
So far, we're 2 for 2 for ending the podcast on a really good note.
Yeah, it's always like I go make like a hard left turn and try and make some weird joke, and it's always like, oh, maybe that didn't land super well, and it's like, all right, it's time to end. This is where we end it. Yeah. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Not Yet Adults, episode 2. You can find the podcast in a variety of places, which is cool because last time we were kind of recording the first episode while everything was still getting ironed out, so we weren't sure. But now we can say with confidence the podcast is on Google Podcasts, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It is Not Yet Adults everywhere. So just search Not Yet Adults, and you will find it. Please download and subscribe and share the podcast wherever you listen. We'd really appreciate it. YouTube and SoundCloud numbers are doing pretty well, but Google Podcasts and iTunes, we would love it if more people could listen there. So if you can check that out, subscribe to the podcast so that you get the episodes right away when they release, that would be great. And in case you missed it, we are doing new episodes every Monday and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time until we get bored or Godzilla attacks, whichever comes first.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for listening. We'd really appreciate if you share this with your friends and family. Annoy them with it if you have to. Thank you so much for listening again. I'm sounding like a broken record now. This has been Not Yet Adults.
This has been Not Yet Adults.